Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are right now. So welcome to live. It looks like we are actually on LinkedIn, Facebook company page, YouTube, and Periscope today. Hello, Bernie. Hello, Jorge. Or George. Hello, Eliza. Hello, Vivek. And hello, Vivek again. And hello, Zared. Look at that, the hearts, the red. Thank you. I'm so excited. We're going to change things up a little bit. Usually I answer your LinkedIn questions first, and then I bring on your special guest. But you can see, actually, I guess it's this way. You can see, I already have my special guest, Dave Buzanko. I should have asked you ahead of time. Buzanko?
That's perfect.
Okay, because everyone slaughters my name, so I should be more aware of that. And I wish I'd hit play earlier. We've been in the green room for about 15 minutes. This man is amazing. I've loved what he's had to say. I'm just going to hit live. I'm just going to hit live. I want people to hear him. So let me tell you a little bit about Dave if you don't know Dave. So, he's been a sales and marketing professional for over 30 years. I know he doesn't look that old, but that's because as well as being a speaker, an executive resilience coach, we'll talk about what that means. He's also a rowing coach, a triathlon coach, a spinning instructor, and an Ironman triathlete. So, he looks about as old as the time he's been in sales and marketing. But more important than that, and I think what keeps him young, is he's the father of two amazing kids and has been, and I love this, resiliently married for over 30 years. Yeah, let's talk later. He's faced business, health, financial crises, and it's not only survived, but learned how to thrive through that process. And as Dave said, resilience leaves clues. You just have to be willing to listen. And the reason I brought him on, well, first of all, guy's not shy. I think on my very first live ever that we were just testing, you're like, I'll be a guest. I'm like, okay. and then I was thinking this morning, like, oh no, I don't know Dave very well. And I've looked through all his stuff, but what if I get him on and like all of a sudden all this craziness comes out? But like I said, we had our green room time and I'm so impressed with him. So now I'm going to shut up and actually let you speak, Dave. Tell us your story. Tell us why resilience is so important right now. Give us some action plans. Go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Viveka, for having me. And hello, everybody that's watching today on all the different platforms. So my story is really, I don't think it's a unique story, but I think the circumstances might be unique. Around the time I was 40 years old, I had a solo entrepreneurship business. I was working with some of Canada's largest companies. And one of my buyers at one of my companies basically came in. I inherited a new buyer. It was around 2008, just before the last financial crash. And he decided that he didn't want to have any private label brands in his stores across the country. So without telling me this, he just said, yeah, go ahead and place the order. So I leveraged everything. It was like every year we were doubling our orders, selling out. This was wonderful. And then all of a sudden I leveraged everything and no orders came through. And so I found myself going, what's going on? What do I do? And he said, just relax. Don't worry. The orders will come through. Well, this went on for a year. So here's the thing. A lot of entrepreneurs will find themselves in similar situations, especially when you work with larger companies where there's penalties for not performing. And you can lose all your profit if you don't deliver on time. So you've got to build your orders. And I can talk the difference about sales forecasts and purchase orders until your ears bleed. Listen,
but
if you're not.
Let's
not. But here's the thing is I got stuck in that moment. And getting stuck in that moment not only led to a business crisis, but also it led to a personal health crisis, because in that time, I was eating to relieve the stress. I was not exercising at all. And out of that crisis, I found that I also had a health crisis, which was a stress-induced heart crisis. And I remember being in the ER with the doctor and him saying, I'll give you two choices. You can either go on heart and cholesterol medication for the rest of your life, or you can lose some weight and get in shape. Now, where do you even start? What we learned in high school really didn't work. It wasn't working for me. So
Right.
I had to go on this new journey, and this new journey of learning how to eat better, learning how to exercise smarter, basically led to one day me literally bumping into an Ironman triathlete who spent 5 minutes with me to change my life. Now, I'll always say this.
What?
He instilled in me
Yeah.
the notion that we're here to serve other people. And if he had chose not to stop and talk to me this day that he was on his bike, we literally bumped into each other. And I only reached out and asked him if he'd really done that Ironman thing because he was wearing this ratty old Ironman t-shirt.
Yeah.
And he said, Dave, the one thing that if you ever decide to do this, the one thing that's going to happen is your belief system is going to have to change. And boy, was he right. Now looking back a decade later, I've completed 3 Ironman triathlons. And each one of them has taught me something completely different. And the unique part of this journey has been that all of these crises and these adversities that I've put myself into, either willingly or unwillingly, you don't really realize when you're stuck until you step back and get perspective and go, wait a minute, that's really not taking me to where I want to go. And so I really started becoming this lifelong learner, and I became so curious about what had happened. How did I go from somebody who was a complete couch potato, 50 pounds overweight, to, heck, I'm an Ironman triathlete now. Like, that was never, I didn't even know I didn't know how to swim. I didn't own a road bike. Like, how did that happen, right? And so it's been this really interesting journey. And so part of my journey over the last 6 years has been trying to understand what happened, what's the science behind what happened, and how can I share that message with other people? So that's where I am today as a speaker, as a coach. I've coached high school kids. I coach executives at the most senior levels. And it's been a really fun ride so far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I mean, I put the question out there, like, I know I can count 3 times in life where, I was going along. Well, I guess 4 now, considering last 90 days, where I was just kind of going along and life was fine and life is good. And then, I got the warning signals, but I was like, life is fine. Life is good. My boyfriend's fine. My job's good. And I like where I live. And, the Godsmack. And it's sometimes a heart attack. It's sometimes a breakup. It's sometimes getting fired. It's sometimes a pandemic, right? It's not always a bad thing, but it just seems to be. And so, that Godsmack just forces you into a new path, which is really where you're supposed to be. So let us know in the numerous chats that we've got going on, have you had that kind of Godsmack that really forced you into a new path? So thank you for sharing that story with us. Now, we are on LinkedIn, so I'm going to ask you a couple LinkedIn questions, but please feel free to expand upon the resilience part, because that's actually, I think, what I'm most interested in, and I think the people on the call too. So how did you get involved using LinkedIn?
Well, I mean, really simply, I was one of those non-users maybe 3 years ago, and then I decided to take social media seriously. And I really had to find a platform that, at that point, a 50-year-old white male could be comfortable being on. And it wasn't Twitter, and it wasn't TikTok or any of these other things that my kids are using. I felt really comfortable at home on LinkedIn. And so I sort of doubled down, and I said, if I'm going to do one thing and do one thing really well, I'm going to try to strategize and use my marketing background to connect with people intelligently on LinkedIn and have intelligent conversations.
Yeah.
And when I got on the platform 3 years ago, I found myself giving advice to people who I was, as a brand marketer, I could see people going really in the wrong direction when they were leaving really inappropriate comments on posts. And I said, man, that's going to stick around for a long time. And if you want to get hired, people are going to see that. So I was sort of giving advice out that way. And then I started sort of realizing that my target audience for people who would hire me and bring me in as a coach or a speaker were human resource executives. And so I got really strategic with that. And the way that I started doing that was I was literally searching out with a Boolean search how to reach out to HR managers within a specific industry at a certain job level. And I started commenting on the things that they were posting and talking about. And I started reaching out saying, hey, I realize you're a thought leader. Would love to have your input on the content that I develop. Have a look. If you're interested, let's stay connected. And what that did was it was sort of polite. It was professional. And it said, hey, take a look. And this way, I'm not dealing with 100 people who every day who I'm connecting with who aren't interested in what I'm talking about. I'm dealing with maybe 30 people a day who I connect with. I might reach out to 100, I connect with 30, and those ones are really interested in what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I've sort of hedged my bets. And while I may not grow like wildfire, like other social media marketers do, getting hundreds of thousands of connections and likes and views,
Right.
the ones I have are quality. And that's what's important.
And that's so key. We've literally talked about this probably the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's no longer about quantity on LinkedIn. It really, for numerous reasons, it's about quality. It's about those quality conversations. It's about those quality connections. And quite frankly, the algorithm will rank you higher, will show your content more if you've got a smaller audience that's more engaged. So I think that's really important, not just on LinkedIn, but in life. You are the sum of your, I'm not going to say family, because you can't choose your family. We talked about that earlier too, but you are the sum of the people that you surround yourself, business partners,
Absolutely.
right? Life partners, friends, etc. So thank you for bringing that up. So the reason, the timing, I don't want to say it's perfect because it's horrendous what's going on right now, but the timing is perfect in that there's a lot of people right now who are afraid. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond. They don't know, they're just floundering. And I think resilience gives you the tools you need not to flounder. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So what we're seeing is there's a lot of people who are getting stuck. And I talk about this all the time. We don't even know when we're stuck. I didn't know when I was stuck in business. I didn't know when I was stuck. Usually when we're successful, we can get stuck and not even know it. So to that point, I was stuck in business. I was stuck in, as a triathlete, I was actually this is crazy. I was actually performing and doing really well. And I was trying to get to the world championships. And I took 2.5 hours off my race time. And what happened was I got stuck with my ego driving the ship. And I didn't step back and take a bigger picture view of what was really going on in my life. And it's a funny statistic with triathletes, especially Ironman triathletes, is that a very high proportion of them, if they do a second Ironman or a third Ironman, get divorced because they become so solely focused. So let me share some perspective and some science about resilience. First of all, so many people just say, "Oh, isn't that person resilient?" And they will usually quantify that or qualify that with a term. They'll say, "Well, he's got grit or she's got grit, so they're resilient." Resilience isn't one thing. Resilience is like a tripod, and it's a million little pieces that make up those 3 legs of the tripod. But there's a physical, a mental, and a personal growth leg to that tripod that makes up a resilient person. And I think if you look at any successful, resilient person, whether they be an athlete, a business person, an entertainer, they've all excelled at all 3 legs of this tripod. So the first one for me, and I realized this when I was 40, hey, if your heart stops beating, you're dead, period. So you better get your physical playbook in order. You better start paying attention to what you're eating, how it's affecting your lifelong health or your long-term health and happiness, and start changing the recipe and start getting curious and start realizing that what worked in the past, or just because everybody else is doing it, doesn't mean it's still good for me. You've got to be a little bit of a trailblazer. You've got to get curious. So once you get your sort of exercise and your diet, let's say, in order, all of a sudden you start feeling better about yourself. Now you can start focusing on the mental side of things. And I have this process, which I call my VIP process. And it just it's an acronym that sort of fit. I always say, and if you look at what's going on right now, you can take this process and apply it to sports. You can take it and apply it to business. You can take it and apply it to our social injustices that are going on in the world right now. And we talked about this earlier. I have this process called VIP. It's vision, identity, and social proof. And right now, people who are out peacefully protesting have a vision of a world that they believe in. It's a world that was, I think, first articulated publicly by Martin Luther King. And it's a world that a lot of people aspire to be a part of. So we've got this vision. We may not be visionaries ourselves, but we've got a vision we can believe in. And now we're going to invest our time and our energy in making that vision become a reality. Right. Okay, so what do I have to do? I have to start assuming the identity of the type of person who would live in that world. Not wait for that world to happen, but start today living in that world. That means I have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I have to start having conversations that are uncomfortable with other people, which might be uncomfortable for them, but that's part of growth. That's part of taking risks. That's part of learning. And then we talked about this earlier as well. How do you measure something that is, you have this vision, you want this world to be your reality? Well, how do you measure that you're making progress? Well, we talked about earlier, you're going to see in November whether or not at the ballot box you've made progress, and where we need to, or where you need to, because I'm Canadian, but where the American audience needs to, or the international audience needs to make improvements in their societies. When you look at things like diet and exercise, for example, I often tell people,
No, I'm kidding.
Let's talk about it. A lot of people get stuck. Like if I asked a show of hands of everybody watching this show right now, how many people ever had a gym membership and then quit? I'm sure that a lot of hands would go up, mine included. And I would say, well, why did you quit? And the reason why most people quit is because they're not seeing the outcomes they expected, right? We have this vision in our head of where we want to go. And as soon as we don't see the metrics, we change and we stop. Well, that's unfortunate, because if we're only looking at the scale when it comes to a gym, and that's the most hard metric you can look at for immediate feedback, you look at the scale. Well, the scale is measuring a lot of things. My weight goes up and down by 10 pounds a day, as does everybody's. But as somebody who trains every day and eats every day and has bodily functions every day, your weight goes up and down. So the first thing I did when I started my journey was I threw away my scale, because that was the metric that was sort of driving me crazy. I invested in a process, a recipe that I knew was going to change over time. I knew that, what worked for me at 40 would not work at 45, would not work at 50. At 53 now, it's changing even more. And I can't eat the same way that I did when I was training for my Ironmans. I love to eat. I mean, I am a foodie. I love to eat. I love wine. I love craft beer, and I love to eat. But I can't eat in a way that's going to create chronic disease in my body down the road. I can't eat in a way that might turn on genetics like dementia, which I have running in my family. I don't want to turn those things on. So I have to exercise in a way. And I talked about this earlier when I was really getting competitive with Ironman and wanted to get to the world championships. I had to get faster. That took me out of my aerobic zone and into my anaerobic zone too much. I was spending too much time there. Yes, it was helping my ego. Yes, it was making me a faster racer. But at the end of the day, I've got this really strong family history of dementia. And in being curious and being resilient, I found out that less than 1% of cases worldwide are familiar, which means that 99% of cases are affected by our lifestyle. Yeah. So, it's great to say you're exercising, fantastic. Look at you, you're an Ironman, big deal. If that's going to make my mind turn to mush in 10 years because I wasn't exercising in a way that got me these BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factors that was building new brain cells, then I was doing myself a disservice all those years. So being resilient is about stepping back, getting perspective and going, am I doing the right thing for my body? Am I doing the right thing for my mind? Do I have the right process that's giving me the intrinsic motivation that says, I am moving forward today? Yeah. So that's kind of really, that's sort of the process. And then the last leg is personal growth. And I'm just on this, like every chief learning officer I speak to, every chief human resource officer I speak to from Fortune 500 companies, because that's what I do in my day job. Everybody wants to try to find a way to instill lifelong learning into their employees. And Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, said it beautifully. He said, we have to switch from being know-it-alls to learn-it-alls. Yeah, I love it. And as somebody who gets billed all the time as a resilience expert, I hate that, because I want to be known as a subject matter enthusiast, not a subject matter expert, because expert implies you know everything. Enthusiast means you're open to learning. And that's part of being curious. So that's sort of when I look at resilience, it's not one thing. It's the combination of physical, mental, and personal growth. And it's also all those little puzzle pieces. And if you make them all strong, then you become resilient. When bad things happen, you've got a way out. You've got a recipe to follow. Yeah. And whether it's like unfortunately, I've seen very tragic things to friends and family happen, where people have died, kids have died, and you ask yourself, how do I help this person? How do I help them get from this place that is unfathomable that they can't move forward from? And in just asking, how are you today? Right.
Right.
I know every day sucks. How are you today?
How are you right now today?
We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of social injustice riots going on, or protests that turn ugly. Just turn to your neighbor and say, how are you today?
Yeah. I mean, and we were talking about earlier in the green room, I was like, I have, and even now I'm like, do I say Black? Do I say African-American? Being one of the whitest chicks out there, I've got friends and I'm like, I'm hurting for them. And is it insensitive? Like, what do I do? Do I say something? Do I not say something? And there's all this mess on Facebook, which is why I prefer LinkedIn. But yeah, like, duh, how are you today? How hard is that? Pick up the phone, message, text. How are you today? How are you doing? And then stop talking and listen.
Yeah, I think you and I both talked about this in the green room earlier. It's the one thing that you can do is not, this isn't a time to voice your opinion.
Yeah.
This is a time to say, how would you feel? If you're sitting in a conversation with friends and family who are not part of the minority that's being, that's speaking out right now, but you want social equality, it's on you not to be silent. It's on you to have an awkward conversation. It's on you not to tell people what to do, but say, how would you feel if that was you? Because it totally turns the conversation around.
Exactly.
It's like when I was coaching people in wellness, and I would talk to them about how much sugar, their body can consume in a day if you're not an athlete, and what's a safe amount of sugar to consume. Have you ever actually read the labels of the food you're buying? And I would tell them stories about going to certain, again, I don't want to mention names, going to certain coffee shops and standing in line. And I loved nothing more when there was a lineup to pull a Frappuccino off the takeout Frappuccino off the shelf and go, 48 grams of sugar. Are you kidding me? Do you know that's twice as much as your body can handle? And I'd say it so like 5 people could hear, and you see, what's he talking about? Right now, I was doing it for a reason. I was trying to spark sort of this curious conversation of the people around me, and it got fun. But I would tell people, once you do your homework and find out really what that number is, the worst thing you can do is start telling people, oh my gosh, don't eat that, because you just piss people off. And you do not want to be the food police. And in this case, you don't want to be the social justice police. You just want to inspire curiosity in others. Help people be more empathetic towards a situation. That's how you handle, in my view, that's how you handle a difficult conversation. I can never put myself in the shoes of somebody who I am not.
Right.
I only have my own perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm in that circle of people, I'm more resilient as a person. I walk away from that conversation feeling much better about myself if I listened and I inspired curiosity.
Exactly.
Rather than just tell people what I think.
Yes.
Which is what I think people don't, from what I'm reading on LinkedIn, people don't want to hear what I think. They want to, they really don't. They want us to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's spot on. So I know you have to leave early. So we've got anywhere between 7 and 5 more minutes, depending on when you have to jump off. Tell us a little bit about how we can become more resilient. What resources do you have for us, and what do you want? What are your final words?
Well,
take as much time as you want.
Thank you for asking. So, as a speaker whose world got turned upside down with everybody else's, that sort of dried right up. And fortunately, when you talk about taking risks, so I've been in sales and marketing for 30 years. And 3 years ago, I joined the learning industry. I had an opportunity. One of the gentlemen that I was coaching as an executive for a large bank joined another company called NIIT. They're a large corporate training company. And I joined the company because I wanted to learn how adults learn. I thought, if I'm going to be a speaker, if I'm going to be a coach, this is nothing that I'm skilled in. I just have my own personal experience. So I wanted to learn. So I spent the last 3 years learning. I'm still, with that organization, helping develop business. But I've learned how adults learn. They learn by doing. And I've learned what micro learning is and how to bring a message, bring a training session into a 3-minute message that keeps the learner engaged and gives them a task. Go out and do it, and let's talk about what you found, right? And so I created this course called on Udemy, called Creating Your Resilience Playbook. And for me, we talked about this earlier. I have a journal, and one of the handouts of this course is a page out of this journal. But this is something that I've been doing for almost 10 years now. And I've customized this for myself. I get this as a one-off. I get it printed off every year. That's one of the resources that comes with the course. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give people the playbook and the perspective and the tools they need to get unstuck in their life and to start visualizing where they want to be down the road and start following the recipe that's going to take you there. Because what I can tell you from my experience is that most people are not visionaries. Most people really struggle with the vision of their future because they look at their parents, they look at their grandparents and go, that's what's going to happen to me. I have no way of changing that. And I'm far too busy to investigate. And so one of the people that I just went through this, so I just launched the course 3 weeks ago. And one of the people, I was coaching a few executives going through it. And one of the executives said to me, I'm frustrated. She got overwhelmed and she said, I'm just going to hire a personal trainer. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, if you're going to hire a personal trainer, because I've done that too, what happens is they have their agenda and you have yours, but rarely do those two get communicated well. So I said to her, who she also has dementia in her family, I said, okay, so the first question you want to ask a trainer is, do you know what BDNF is? Because when you train at different rates, you either accumulate new brain cells, you give your brain the opportunity to grow, which makes it harder for the disease to get through that. So you will have a more healthy brain longer into life. Or you can try to be fit and get in shape doing HIIT workouts. Just ask them, do they know what BDNF means? And if they say no, that's not the trainer for you.
Right.
Because if they're an expert trainer and they've stopped learning, that's not who you want training you. So unfortunately,
good point.
Being resilient, look to every single athlete, business person, whoever that's resilient, they've done the work. They haven't gone off and said, I'm just going to let somebody else tell me what to do. As we've realized, blind faith is never the right answer.
That's right. That's absolutely right. 100%.
Right? But if you become a lifelong learner and you become curious, one of my mentors, and I say mentors, I've talked to this gentleman 2 or 3 times. I've read his books. His name is Dr. Yanni Friedhoff from Ottawa. He is a great, he wrote a book called, where's his book here? No,
I know, that happens to me. Like, what?
Oh, right. And anyway, Yanni wrote a great book, and I can't remember the name of his book. But the point is,
you can put it in the chat later.
In that book, The Diet Fix. Thank you, The Diet Fix. And in that book, what he says is, we as a society have been doing such an injustice to exercise. The fitness industry has been portraying exercise as the cure for weight loss and weight management. When it's diet, it is not exercise. And to that point, as an Ironman triathlete, I know the maximum amount of calories you can burn in an hour are 700, maybe 800 if you're super doing something hard for an hour. Most people can't sustain that effort past 1 hour. So let's say you exercise every day for an hour a day. You give it the absolute maximum, 700 calories. That's not even lunch at McDonald's.
Right.
Like it's great that they put calorie counts onto the food court menus, but unless you have context to understand how many calories you're burning a day and what the numbers are adding up to, it's useless. It's just useless information. So it sounds good. It's a good PR thing, but it's useless information. So I encourage people, when they go through my course, they're going to become these people who become curious, and getting uncomfortable and doing some of the hard work might seem difficult in the beginning, but then it becomes sort of routine and you just get more and more curious. And all of a sudden you look back and 10 years go by and you go, why am I 53 and healthier than I was when I was 40? How the heck did that happen? Right? I mean, how did I go from 220 pounds to 170 pounds when I couldn't do that when I was younger? And it gets, trust me, as you get older, it does not get any easier.
That's
right. So you gotta find the recipe that works for you. People ask me, what exercise should I do? And I say, do whatever you love to do. Just do it in a way that serves your heart and your mind.
Exactly.
Do it at the heart rate that serves your heart and your mind. Triathlon's about doing 3 sports because there's varieties of spice of life. Well, do a little bit of HIIT workouts, do a little bit of endurance aerobic stuff, but just understand what the numbers mean and understand what the outcome is you want to have, and just do it in a way that makes you happy. And you'll do it.
Absolutely.
And when you track it, then you feel, again, the science behind intrinsic motivation means if you're tracking these things, that's your immediate gratification. Not the scale, like I look at my journal and I ask myself, okay, have I exercised today? Yes, I've got I've got winning streaks and I've got check marks on here. My greatest streak today, and we're not perfect. I've been doing this for 10 years. My longest streak on this form right now is 117 days. And most of them are in around 12 or 14 days because real life happens. But you're going to learn something about resilience if you take my course, and that is there are non-negotiables. There are certain things that you have to do every day that are non-negotiables. Do them first, make that deposit in the bank, and then move on. And with that, I need to move on.
I know you need to move on. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Dave. We'll see you later. I know you have to move yet. So I'm going to put the link to Dave's book in all the streams, or Chom, if you're on the call, if you can grab that link, I'll send it to you. Not book, I'm sorry, Udemy course, because it goes back up to $59 or $49.99 tomorrow. But right now it's at $12.99 until tomorrow. So this was good timing to have Dave on. So I'll definitely make sure to get that link into the chat. I know it went into a couple, but not all of them. So he's not here. He's off working with another client right now. He had to jump right off, but I think we can all say thank you to Dave. Please make sure to follow him on LinkedIn. He really does share great information. So awesome having him as a guest. Now, there were some questions I know that came in. So I want to get to those. I know we're running a little bit over, but I wanted to get to the questions that came in. If you have any questions about LinkedIn, you can go to vengresolive.com, and ask your questions. And then I answer them the next week, usually at the beginning of the show. But I wanted Dave to have absolutely every single minute because he's awesome. Okay, so Brandon, you asked, you just wanted to be here. Awesome, thank you. All right, let's see what else we have for questions. Kathleen said, what is the best way to target our legacy email prospect list through LinkedIn? So I always get kind of the heebie-jeebies when I hear the words email list and LinkedIn put together, because of course, the last thing we want to do is start connecting with people on LinkedIn and importing them to our email list. But it sounds like, Kathleen, you're saying what's the best way to target our existing email list. So I don't recommend this, but there is a way of uploading your email list into LinkedIn and inviting each and every one of them to connect. I don't know that that's necessarily the best thing to do. You can, when you're targeting ads on LinkedIn, and AJ Wilcox is actually the person to follow if you have questions about ads. There's a way of targeting or retargeting your email list through ads. That's probably a better way of doing it. And what we do at Vengreso is, we'll go through who's our client, who's our prospect. And if it makes sense for us to reach out and actually invite them to connect one-on-one, we'll do that, because then, of course, they'll get access to our content. The more streams that you are sharing your content on, email, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, text, phone calls, right? The more platforms that you're using to reach out to your audience, the higher chance that they are going to see it and respond to it. And actually, if you go from 2 platforms to 4 platforms, it increases the likelihood of someone seeing and engaging with you 400%. So definitely, if you do have that email list, treat it carefully. It's about quality. You can invite those people, or if you want to do an ad, retargeting works too. Good question. All right. Victor Chase asks, what other social platforms besides LinkedIn can you market your B2B company? All of them, really, depending what you do. I was like, oh, thank goodness Gary Vaynerchuk said you don't do B2B marketing on Insta, and what else did he say? I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, yay. And then, of course, more recently, he's said something differently. So yeah, you can use any platform. Just know where your audience is and be very specific and focused in what you're sharing. And there's also platforms overseas like BB. Well, they're all over the world, but they started overseas like BB and Viadeo. So there's a lot of different platforms out there. Just wherever your audience is, that's where you should be engaging with them. If you know you've got a B2B audience on Insta and you're sharing the right kind of content that they're interested in, because it's business to business, but they're still human beings, then yeah, that's going to work for you. Bernie, who's on the call right now, is always telling me we need to be doing more on Instagram, as is my best friend, Sue Zimmerman. So, okay, I'm listening. All right. Thank you, Victor, for that question. Let's see. Our next question is, how do you define social selling? I probably get asked that all the time. My answer always shifts just a little bit, but really it's whatever platform you're on. I don't care. It's creating quality conversations with your audience, with your network, with your connections. And one of the ways of doing that, of course, is sharing quality content too. So sharing quality content to create quality conversations with your connections. A lot of alliteration there. That is my definition today of social selling. All right, let's see. That was a good question. Nicole, when will prospecting, and I think this was like last week, but I'll answer it again because it's a good one. When will prospecting become acceptable again? It's acceptable now, but as Dave was saying, golden rule, don't do anything that you would offend you, right? So if doing push marketing, in your face push marketing would offend you, guess what? It's going to offend your audience too. So you've got to be very focused on the type of content that you're sharing, and you need to be empathetic to your audience and understanding what their needs are. So that was all the questions today. Let's see, we've got a couple extra comments. Not all of them are coming through because I can see on my iPad that we've got a lot more comments that I just haven't had the chance to respond to. But let's see. Yeah, so Bruce, hey Bruce, nice to have you here. You love Instagram because you can do, and you're definitely B2B, you're working with other business owners, and you love those like 1 minute videos and, like you said, micro products. So yeah, Insta works for you. That's awesome. And I'll go ahead and share that. Well, here, I'll just share it now. So if you want to check Bruce out, go to tiny.cc/conflict-good-if-acted-on. Awesome. Thank you. Alfred, yeah. Do you love more Instagram too? So y'all, you should follow my friend Subi Zimmerman if you're not already. I'm going to pop that in, SubiZimmerman.com. She's the Instagram expert on Instagram. She's, I think, the Instagram expert on LinkedIn too, but just go to her website, SubiZimmerman.com. If you have any questions about Instagram or think Instagram rocks, you will love that. Let me see, what else do we have? Bernie, thank you. Let me share that. Bernie was saying, James E. Mead says, it's not about how much, it's about relevancy. If you have amazing content, your audience will love post often. If not, don't post as often. That's his 2 cents. Excellent. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, yes, I did. Sue's on. All right, I'm going to go. Here's Sue. Yes, I did actually mention Instagram. That's hilarious. So you need to follow Sue because she knows everything about it. All right, let's see. We've got some more questions here. Excellent. Link. It's not telling me who you are. So just let me know who you are and I'll show it. How often should I post an article to make the best impact without sounding desperate? So article, and I just want to clarify here, article is like LinkedIn Publisher. It's those blog-like posts, and it's actually got a different landing area than updates on LinkedIn. So I'm not sure which you mean. You can do both daily. Articles just take longer to create and they get crap visibility. So hopefully you just mean articles. Yeah, I mean, if you look at my stream, I'm 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day daily, but I'm always sharing helpful, useful information. It's kind of few and far between that I'm doing anything outwardly promotional, unless I'm talking about LinkedIn Live, which is still I don't get paid for it. So it's still all for you all. So it's not so much how often you're going to share content as what's the quality of the content. So excellent question. Thank you very much for that question. Quality. Is it non-salesy? Is it informational? Is it something that your audience is going to like? So great question. Kelly, how do you get LinkedIn to give you the ability to add providing services on your profile? Gosh, everyone should have that by now. So if you go to your actual profile, it's above, and I'll just get with you later on it, but it's above the dashboard. You should see the ability to add services. I'm not 100%, but I think also if you go into settings, you can find that. But you should have done that. So, or you should have had that already. All right, let's see. Yes, Bruce has an excellent breakfast club. If you want to share that, Dave was talking about resilience and journaling. And one of the things that really helps with staying resilient in times like these are having masterminds, right? And having people that you can work with. So Bruce has got one. I don't know if we want to put it out there for everybody, but if you do, okay, it looks like you do. All right, I'll go ahead and pop that in there. If you are looking for a mastermind, Bruce has his Monday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern and 9 a.m. Mountain. So 8 a.m. Eastern and what is that? 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you are looking for a mastermind, check out Bruce's Breakfast Club. Oh, nope. Check out this one instead, thebreakfastclub.net. Okay. I know. Bernie's like, whoa, Sue's in the house. Whoa. Okay. Sue wants to share some stuff too. She says she's got a free strategy guide where she explains all 4 Subi neighborhoods, feed stories, IGT, IG Live. So just go to SubiZimmerman.com guide. Hey, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes. Do you have a resource you want to share with our audience? Let me know if you have a resource you want to share with the audience. I'm going to go ahead and put Dave's back in his Udemy class, if you remember. And again, if you get it today, $12. If you get it tomorrow, $49.99. Now, even at $49.99, it's going to be a huge value because he's giving you, heck, we know how expensive journals are. So you've got the journal, plus it's an hour course. You know what? Here, I'll just show you. I got another coaching I have to go to in a minute too, but I want to show you all. So here, let me grab the screen and let me show you his course. There we go. So yeah, if you want to think about taking his course, can I make that bigger? You know what? I'll just get rid of myself. There we are. So it's a 1 hour on-demand video, 1 downloadable resource. That's the journal. You get full lifetime access. You can see it on mobile, TV, on your browser, obviously, and you get a certificate of completion. So if you want to check that out, I popped it in at least some of the chats will be in there. Yeah. And then another really good resource is my friend. I don't know why it's not showing you, but anyway, my friend Deborah, who was on with us last week. Yes, when we had the big LinkedIn fail. So we're going to have Deborah back, Deborah Eckerling. We were able to broadcast everywhere but LinkedIn. So my friend Deborah Eckerling is an amazing woman. Alfred actually is working with her. My friend Alfred's working with her. Part of resilience is also setting goals, right? Dave talked about that too. So if you go to yourgoalguidebook.com, you can check out Deborah Eckerling's book and make sure to follow her too. All right, let's see. What else do we have? We have some more resources here. Bernie, thank you so much. Yes, we have a new yeah, you're all here on live video, right? Wherever, whatever platform you're on. And so it is so important, I think, these days to differentiate yourself from everybody else. And part of that is using video messaging. Now, we, of course, have a course on it, but look at this article first because it's free. So unique use cases for using video messaging. So definitely check that one out. I know Bernie's posted it, and I think Chom's posting it in a few other areas as well. Okay, back to Deborah. We've got, your Goal Guide Facebook group. So if you are interested in having a support group to help you with your goals, then go check out Deborah's group, facebook.com/groups/your goal guide. These are all in chat as well. Okay, let's see. All right. Bruce also has an accountability link for you. This is great. All right, I'm going to have to wrap it up. We're 15 minutes over. I hope I answered all the LinkedIn questions. Again, if you've got questions on LinkedIn, then go to www.vengresolive.com. I always mean to check and see who our guest is next week. And of course, I forgot to do that. Bernie, can you check to see who our guest is next week? That would be awesome. Thank you. Any questions you can also put into the chat. Not that I'm going to see them all. And I just want to thank everyone who's here. Eliza has a question. Okay, I'll answer. It's so hard to get me off of camera. Oh, okay, great. Eliza, I can answer that question. Eliza asks, how do you position yourself on LinkedIn when you have more than one company? So here's a little ninja trick. I do a lot of video, as you can imagine. And so one of the things I do is I put all the videos that I know I'm going to be sharing over and over and over again into a folder on Zoom. So I do have the answer and all these other answers too. Let me see if I can find it super quick. 2 profiles on LinkedIn. There it is. So I'm going to pop this into chat. Hopefully you'll see it. And Eliza, if you don't see it, or Lisa, I'm not sure. If you don't see it, just reach out to me later and I'll get it to you. But here is the link. So if you've got more than one, it's cutting me off. If you've got more than one business, how do you represent yourself on LinkedIn? So I've got that, popped it into chat for everybody. Okay, I'm going to hang out. I'm going to head out because, as you can see, my video is not working anymore. So that's the universe saying, time to wrap it up. Oh my gosh, speaking of video. Okay, you can't even see me anymore, but whatevs. Here, I'll show the screen instead. Speaking of video, next week we've got Rob. Of course, we've got Rob Rashute of One Mob, which is a great tool for showing or for doing video messaging, both in email and online. So yeah, one mob Rob, that's what we call him, One Mob Rob. So Rob is awesome. He is going to be my special guest. So if you do have, I'm completely frozen now. So if you do have questions,